So, welcome to the Digital Maddie Show with your host and host Mithyll, a pod exclusively made for solopreneurs, artists, and coaches who wants to build their digital empire. With 15 plus years of business experience, I cover topics on personal branding, content creation, as well as digital marketing on this show and invite many experts who share the same passion like mine. Today, I'm excited to have one of a very wonderful guest on our show. Her name is Shana, and she's a speaker, a writer, and an entrepreneur. Her work centers around intentional leadership and life design. Shana believes our present and future are transformed when we infuse our lives with intention, design our lives, honor our place as part of the global community, and realize the power in accepting ourselves as the author of our story. So, super excited, and without wasting much of our time, let's bring onto the stage Shana.
Hi, how are you?
Super cool. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Shana, can you share your backstory with all of us?
So I grew up in a very fundamental religious environment and an abusive home. And um, the thing that I wish it hadn't taught me, but the thing that it taught me was that I was not safe inside of my own environment. I was not safe inside of my own body, and that I was meant to live my life by other people's rules. And 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 so very early on I started crafting my physical environment in ways that I could and showing up for myself in ways that were allowable. Right. And so I would like start tearing out pages of magazines and I would post them all up over the walls in my bedroom of images of homes or of beautiful clothing or flowers or things that felt like they were connected to how I wanted to show up in the world and who I wanted to be and things that I wanted to surround me, like the beauty of nature, etc. And then I would put beautiful quotes up on the wall, things that inspired me, that helped me to recognize that the world was different than I was being allowed to experience it. I was being allowed to experience it in such a small, controlled way, and the world was so much bigger than I was being given access to. And this really started to inform what is now my work really early on because I began to recognize the psychological importance of physical space, and how it sends signals and it's the back to us about who we are, right? And how we get to show up in the world. And it also is the practice ground, right? We practice who we are at home so that we can then show up in the world at large, right? Because at home is where we're supposed to be able to safely practice and recognize who we are and test those boundaries of who we are so then we can show up in larger ways in the world at large. And so somewhere around my teen years, I recognized that interior design was a thing, and began, in college, studied interior design. But there was always this very informed part of the psychology of space, right, from my own perspective, from my own understanding, and that always informed my work. And so when I launched my business 5 years ago, I launched it part time about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, in 2016, however many years that is. Um, when I first started work on the business, even from back then, I could see that the way that I worked with my clients was always from a place of who do you want to be in this world? How do you want to show up in this world? What do you want to accomplish? And then creating the physical environment around my clients, whether it was their home or their business or a restaurant, um, creating that physical environment as a way of supporting who they are and helping to empower them to show up more powerfully in the world by being better supported and having their physical environment reflect back to them who they are. Because I think as human beings, there's so much going on in the world. It's easy for us to lose sight of who we are authentically, right? And so then eventually my work kind of morphed into what it is now, which is what I call life design, which is the recognition that interior design is a part of that, right? It's still in a very important part, but it sits underneath the umbrella of life design where my work focuses on intentional living and leadership and intention bleeding into every aspect of our lives.
That's super cool. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shana. Uh, But then, I'm very interested with this concept where you said, the life design is the umbrella and interior design is just a part of it. So
Yeah.
as per you, what is life design?
Life design is intentional living and leadership, right? And intentional living is the formula that I was on a podcast a few months ago, and one of the hosts was a finance guy. And so we start talking about my philosophies around intentional living and leadership. And immediately the one host was like, let's make it a formula. And I was like, okay, let's try it. Right. And he came up with a formula and it was kind of close, but I've been retooling it since then. So the formula looks like curiosity plus respect times practicing accountability. And practicing accountability is a really key part, equals intentional living, leadership, and community, right? And so that is the formula that ultimately leads us to life design. Life design is about intentionality, right? At its core, that's what it is, because design is a function of intention, right? The minute that we start applying intention to our creativity is the minute that we begin designing something.
Awesome, awesome. So Shana, as per your experience and guidance, how can one become a life designer?
I think when you take over, that was a big sigh. When you when you take take the moment to recognize that you are the author of your story, and that your story is meant to be authentically connected to who you are. No one else is meant to take the lead role in that story. We are meant to take that lead role. That's the minute that you begin designing your life. And the goal is not for me to be the one who is designing people's lives perpetually, right? The goal is to the way that I currently work is to work with people for a year or 2 years, right? And then be able to then sit in the driver's seat and say, okay, now I have the tools necessary. I'm going to continue this path, this journey of curiosity, this journey of practicing respect, of practicing curiosity, of practicing accountability, and continually become more intentional, right? Because intentionality is not an arrival place, it's a journey, just like every other aspect of our lives. And so to become your own life designer is to sit in that place of perpetual learning, and to recognize that that's just a part of our human journey.
Wow, this is actually deep. Thank you so much for sharing it. Uh,
Yeah.
so this, if you see, as per you, what you how does it feel? The journey of healing actually looks like, because when you try to start living an intentional lifestyle, you practically you're trying to heal a lot of things inside which has not been addressed before. So what is that journey looks like?
Well, like every other human, I'm in it for myself. So that current journey looks like recognizing my place inside of this world as an ecosystem, and recognizing that the harm that was caused me was done so kind of in a vacuum, right? I was cut off from the community I would have needed for it to be supporting me in a way for the trauma not to happen in the first place, right? Typically, harmful people separate us from one another, right? They seek to drive us away from community. It makes it much easier for them to harm us, and it keeps them from having to practice accountability, right? So those two things are removed that are deeply important for our human existence. So for my healing, that's why part of this whole equation is practicing curiosity, practicing respect, practicing accountability, not just for myself, but they become the guideposts of who I surround myself with. People who are also doing that, and people who are also doing that become my community, right? And then we support each other in working through and having conversations about, like, hey, what's working for you in your life? How can I support you? Sharing resources, sharing knowledge. And it's in that communal support and in recognition of the power of community that I have found so much healing for myself. I think we are, in some ways, especially in America, getting it wrong in that we're on these healing journeys. And for most of it, we feel like we're supposed to do it ourselves, because there's this very hyper individualized sensibility, right? Of if I want to be able to say I did it on my own. But what if the power is in the opposite of that? What if the healing is in the connection to one another rather than continually to try to do it on our own? Right? So for me, the deepest part of healing has been forming community around myself, and not just forming it, but recognizing my part in it, recognizing other people's powerful part in it, and us working together to heal together, to support each other, because much of the pain that I was caused was in not having support.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with this journey of healing, and we try to be as much aligned uh, to getting healed, but again, when we go out into the world, things are absolutely real, and we need to have a solid positive vibration. And it is always said that blissful and joy being one of the highest vibrations, which will keep you aligned to the healing process, and it will help us fast. So as per your experience, how can one person stay connected to joy, or state of blissfulness?
Yeah, so joy, I loved this kind of very Buddhist definition of joy in staying present and not trying to make the present moment anything else, right? The minute we try to make the present moment something else, we are removed from joy because we are comparing it to other experiences we wish we were having instead of being present with the experience we are already having. And it's debatable whether we're actually experiencing the present moment at all. We're just comparing it to what we wish it were, although we're not even experiencing it, right? Like,
Absolutely.
so it's such this mind-blowing thing, this like, whoa, we can't even experience the present moment if we're not even in it because we just continually are comparing it, right? And so for me, there's been so much joy in just sitting with the present. And I think what I've come to recognize is that trying to make it something other than what it actually is a function of this very hierarchical world in which it tells us that our present experience should be this thing that may or may not be part of our actual authentic journey, right? And so recognizing that whatever this moment is whatever it is, and that doesn't mean I can't grow through this moment and make the next moment something else. But what I have to do is focus on who I am in this moment, be present in this moment so that I can grow in this moment and that I can become who I want to be in the next moment.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shanna, for sharing that. And this comes to the end of the phase one of the interview,
Yeah.
and basically we have to start with the phase two, and phase two is all about rapid fire round, where
Okay.
I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you won't get any time to think. Whatever the first thing pops in your mind, you have to share. So, are you
Okay,
ready?
good. Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So let me make it a little intense. Let me zoom a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So, who do you admire the most?
Right now, okay. I love Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou has been a deep source of wisdom and support for me, a mentor in my head. But current living people, I'm really fascinated and obsessed right now with Mia Birdsong. She came out with a book a couple of years ago called How We Show Up, and it challenges the way we look at community and helps to talk about boundary setting and actually learning how to function in communities together. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Curious, passionate, and tall. I'm 6'1", so.
Nice. All right. What is the one thing that you would like to put on your bucket list in 2023?
Hmm, more travel. I'd really love to spend some time traveling, especially in Europe.
Nice. All right. So, who is your favorite cartoon character and why?
Um, does Wonder Woman count as a cartoon character?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that can.
Wonder Woman. I recently came to the recognition that Wonder Woman actually doesn't do everything. Wonder Woman isn't married and she doesn't have kids. So she gets to explore the world from a place of um, of showing up for people in the way that she does because she's chosen a life that supports it. And I love the power in that, the recognition that we get that choice, even as women, especially as women, to choose how we show up in the world. And that it is really powerful when it's authentically connected to who we are rather than societal expectations.
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, you combine both the questions, but still, I'll try to ask the next question. Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Yeah. So Wonder Woman. Yeah. Yeah. And so I'll just kind of reiterate that that for the longest time, Wonder Woman felt like she was this representation of a woman being everything and being powerfully everything. And then it really literally wasn't until recently that I actually intellectualized the fact that she isn't everything. She's really good at what she's really good at, and she embraces that, and that is who she is rather than what society would have her be, and especially back in the day, when Wonder Woman was at her heyday, women were expected to get married and have kids. And so it was actually really this very bold statement, Wonder Woman, choosing not to be married and have kids.
True, true, absolutely. So I really enjoyed this rapid fire round.
Yeah,
I hope even you did, Shana.
I did. I absolutely did. I love it.
Awesome, awesome. So, Shana, all the people who are listening to this particular episode, if they wish to connect with you, know more about you, how can they do that?
Yeah, best place is my website, www.consonate.world. I'm sure you'll tag it in the show notes. There's my information to reach out and connect with me. There's free information about life design and creating some practices around that and some initial thoughts to help kind of deepen your connection to it. There's all kinds of connection to my social media. I'm most active on LinkedIn and TikTok, so you can find me there.
So you will find all the link in the description below. Do check it out. Uh, okay, so before we end this particular episode, Shana, what is the one message that you wish to give to all our listeners?
Stay curious, get curious, create a practice around it, right? Like the other day, I went for a walk and I noticed that poison ivy was starting to sprout up. And I immediately was like, huh, you know what I'm going to do when I get home? I'm going to do some research on poison ivy and what part does poison ivy play in our ecosystem. And I think it's deeply important that we lean into that kind of curiosity because much of that kind of learning, that kind of understanding ourselves as human beings and every other living thing as part of an ecosystem has been lost to us, especially here in America. Like we haven't been given that understanding through our education system. And so it's deeply important that we lean into and practice curiosity.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you because curiosity is something which brought men from being a stone age to what we are today. As well as in every field that we see, curiosity has played a very vital role. So this is a very beautiful message, and thank you so much, Anna, for taking your valuable time and coming on to this show. And super excited to have you once again, and would love to go more deeper into
Yeah.
live designing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would love that. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. So you have just listened to the Digital Maddie Show with your host Mithyll. Thank you so much for listening to your show and giving so much love. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So this is Mithyll signing off at the moment. Until next time, meet you soon with another guest and their amazing story. But until then, keep rocking and stay safe. But don't forget to keep creating content.